Light work. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 22. The process of devotional service. It's the third chapter in the Sanatana Shiksha, the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. 5 chapters at the tail end of the Madhya Lila, known as the Sanatana Shiksha. So Mahaprabhu has already explained what is broadly Sambandha Gyan, which Sambandha means relationship, connection. So the connection or the relationship between the Jiva soul and Krishna, establishing Krishna as the all-attractive center of God conception, i.e. the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Godhead meaning the head of the God conception, the topmost idea of what God is. The Mahaprabhu has established that. And now, next natural question is how to establish a relationship. So, the practical construction of a relationship with Krishna is known as abhideya. The process of sadhana bhakti, which causes a relationship between the Jiva soul and Bhagavan to be established. Abhideya. And Mahaprabhu is explaining this currently to Sanatana Goswami. The process of devotional service. Abhideya tattva. Krishna Bhakti Haya Abhideya Pradana Bhakti Mukha Nirakshaka Karma Yoga Jnana. Devotional service to Krishna is the chief function of the living entity. There are different methods for the liberation of the conditioned soul. Karma, Jnana, Yoga and Bhakti. But all are dependent on Bhakti. E Sabha Sadanera Ati Tuja Bala Krishna Bhakti Vinataha Atite Narepala. But for devotional service, all other methods for spiritual self-realization. Bring that microphone over here because I don't think anyone can hear it when it's over there. But for devotional service, all other methods for spiritual self-realization are weak and insignificant. Unless one comes to the devotional service of Lord Krishna, jnana and yoga cannot give the desired results. Naishkamyam apshututtaparva varjitam nasobhate jnanam alam niranjanam kuta puna shashvad abhadram ishvare nacharpitam karma yad apyakaranam. When pure knowledge is beyond all material affinity but is not dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it does not appear very beautiful, although it is knowledge without a material tinge. What, then, is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the beginning and transient by nature? If they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord, what use are they? How can they be very attractive? So from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.12. Tapasvino dana para yashasvino manasvino mantra vida sumangala kshemam na vindati vina yad arpanam tasmai subhadra shravase namo namaha. Those who perform severe austerities and penances, those who give away all their possessions out of charity, those who are very famous for their auspicious activity, those who are engaged in meditation and mental speculation, and even those who are very expert in reciting the Vedic mantras, are not able to obtain any auspicious results, although they are engaged in auspicious activities, if they do not dedicate their activities to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I therefore repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are always auspicious. It's another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, according to the purport, 2:470, Srimad Bhagavatam 2:470. Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna. So, Mahaprabhu is saying here that although other processes have been given in various traditions, jnana, karma, jnana, yoga, bhakti, Krishna bhakti haya, abhideya pradhan, bhakti mukha, nikshaka, karma, yoga, jnana. So, devotional service to Krishna is the active ingredient, so to speak, even in other processes of spiritual practice, such as karma and gyan. Karma means action, offering the results of one's, sacrificing the results of one's work. Gyan, the cultivation of discriminatory knowledge. Yoga, various yoga practices. Dhyan, such as dhyan, niyama, Ashtanga yoga, the 8 practices of yoga. But all are dependent on bhakti, it says, because without them they are unable to deliver spiritual results. They may deliver some kind of lifestyle improvement results, but bhakti remains, spiritual realization remains elusive unless bhakti is included. Devotional service being the chief function of the living entity, it is natural that bhakti must be included in any process which awakens the natural function, the constitutional function of any conscious entity. For that to be activated, if that is bhakti based, then bhakti must be necessary to activate it, and not jnana, yoga, or karma. Kevala jnana mukti dete nare bhakti vinay krishnon mukhe se mukti haya vina jnane. Speculative knowledge alone without devotional service is not able to give liberation. On the other hand, even without knowledge, one can obtain liberation if one engages in the Lord's devotional service. Shriyam shritim bhaktim udasyate vibho klishyantaye kevala bodha labdhaye tesham aso kleshala eva shishyate nanyad yatastula tushavagatinam. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the only auspicious path. If one gives it up simply for speculative knowledge or the understanding that these living beings are spirit souls and the material world is false, he undergoes a great deal of trouble. He only gains troublesome and inauspicious activities. His endeavors are like beating a husk that is already devoid of rice. One's labor becomes fruitless. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-4. Daivi shesha gunamai mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mam etam tarantite. Bhagavad Gita, of course. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Krishna nityada sajivataha buligela edoshe maya taragalaya bandila. The living entity is bound around the neck by the chain of Maya because he has forgotten that he is eternally a servant of Krishna. Tate Krishna bhajje kare gurura sevana maya jala chute bhaya krishnera charana. If the conditioned soul engages in the service of the Lord and simultaneously carries out the orders of his spiritual master and serves him, he can get out of the clutches of Maya and become eligible for shelter at Krishna's lotus feet. Charivana Shrami Yadi Krishna Nahi Bhaje Svakarma Karite Serorave Padimaje. The followers of the Varnashram institution accept the regulative principles of the four social orders and the four spiritual orders. However, if one carries out the regulative principles of these orders but does not render transcendental service to Krishna, he falls into the hellish condition of material life. Mukha bahuru padebhyaha purushasya shramai saha chatvaro jaggere varna guner vipradaya pritak guner vipradaya pritak. From the mouth of Brahma, the Brahminical order has come into existence. Similarly, from his arms, the Kshatriyas have come. From his waist, the Vaishyas have come. And from his legs, the Shudras have come. These four orders and their counterparts, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas, combine to make human society possible. Ye esham purusham shakshad atma prabhavam ishwaram nabhajantya vajananti stanad brastaha patyantadaha. If one simply maintains an official position in the four varnas and ashrams, but does not worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he falls down from his puffed up position into a hellish condition. So Mahaprabhu is gradually establishing the supremacy of devotional service and its necessity, even if one is attracted to and engaged in other spiritual paths such as karma, jnana, yoga, saying that they are futile, they are impotent without the inclusion of bhakti even into those processes. So bhakti is the driver, bhakti is the active ingredient. The common denominator in any successful spiritual practice is bhakti. And not only is bhakti the potency of all other spiritual processes, but it in itself is the destination. So it's established as the common denominator and also the supreme destination. Even outside of the four varnas and ashrams, indeed, if one is too attached to the varnas and ashrams, as it says here, his position is degraded. And says in Srila Prabhupada's language, he falls down from his puffed up position into a hellish condition. Yani jivan muktadasa painu karimane vastuha buddhi shuddha nahi Krishna bhakti vinay. There are many philosophical speculators belonging to the Mayavad school who consider themselves liberated and call themselves Narayan. However, their intelligence is not purified unless they engage in Krishna's devotional service. Yenye ravindaksha vimukta maninas tvayashta bhavad avishuddha buddhaya aruhya krishrena param padam tata patyantyado nadritya yushmad angrayaha patyantyado nadritya yushmad angrahayaha. O lotus-eyed one, those who think they are liberated in this life but do not render devotional service to you must be of impure intelligence. Although they accept severe austerities and penances and rise to the spiritual position, to impersonal Brahman realization, they fall down again because they neglect to worship your lotus feet. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32. So one may go to the Brahman level, that level of freedom from material life, from the Maya Shakti, but they haven't entered into the spiritual domain of form, and thus there's always a possibility of them re-entering the material environment. If they have missed out, they have neglected to pursue devotional service. The spiritual world of form can only be entered through devotional service, not through any other method. That's the essential message being given here. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakara Yahan Krishna Tahan Nahi Mayara Adhikara. Krishna is compared to sunshine and Maya is compared to darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. And as soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, the darkness of illusion, the influence of the external energy will immediately vanish. Vilajja manaya yasya statum iksha patemuya vimohita vikatante mamaham iti durdiyaha. The external illusory energy of Krishna is known as Maya. Known as Maya is always ashamed to stand in front of Krishna, just as darkness is ashamed to remain before the sunshine. However, that Maya bewilders unfortunate people who have no intelligence. Thus they simply boast that this material world is theirs and that they are its enjoyers. Krishna tomara hana yadi bale ekabara Maya banda haite Krishna tare kare para. One is immediately freed from the clutches of Maya if he seriously and sincerely says, "My dear Lord Krishna, although I have forgotten you for so many long years in the material world, today I am surrendering unto you. I am your sincere and serious servant. Please engage me in your service." Sakrid eva prapano yas tavasmiti chayachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadyam yetad vratam mama. It is my vow that if one only once seriously surrenders unto me, saying, "My dear Lord, from this day I am yours," and prays to me for courage, I shall immediately award courage to that person, and he will always remain safe from that time on. So that's Lord Ram speaking in the purport. This is a quotation from the Ramayana. Bhukti mukti siddhi kami subuddhi adihaya gadha bhakti yogi tabe Krishna re bhajaya. Due to bad association, the living entity desires material happiness, liberation, or merging into the impersonal aspect of the Lord. Or he engages in mystic yoga for material power. If such a person actually becomes intelligent, he takes to Krishna consciousness by engaging himself in intense devotional service to Lord Sri Krishna. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Whether one desires everything or nothing, or whether he desires to merge into the existence of the Lord, he is intelligent only if he worships Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by rendering transcendental loving service. Anya kami yadi kare Krishnera bhajana na magite ha Krishna tare dena svacharana. If those who desire material enjoyment or merging into the existence of the Absolute Truth engage in the Lord's transcendental loving service, they will immediately attain shelter at Krishna's lotus feet, although they did not ask for it. Krishna is therefore very merciful. So even if one's motive is not to attain Krishna consciousness, one can still get just that through devotional service. Eventually. It says here immediately, but they will immediately attain shelter. Although immediately is not there in the original text. It's Srila Prabhupada's optimism. If one approaches with impure motive, then generally those motives will need to be purified before bhakti can enter the heart. As we know, bhukti mukti spriha javat pisachi hridi vartate. Tasyad bhakti sukasyatra katam abhyudayo bhavet. While bhukti, the desire for material enjoyment, or mukti, the desire for freedom from material pains, liberation, that is, are present in one's heart. Bhakti, tavad, tasyad, tavad bhakti sukasyatra. Katam abhyudayo bhavet, cannot enter. Bhakti will not enter. So even though so this, it seems to contradict this verse, does it not? They may get shelter, perhaps it can be explained by saying they will immediately get shelter at Krishna's lotus feet, although the shelter is not necessary. Krishna will give them shelter, i.e. protection, but the bhakti will come a little later, after the heart has been cleansed of the desire for material enjoyment or merging into the existence of Krishna. Actually, it doesn't even specifically mention those two items either. It's anyakami, one who desires other things. Kami meaning desire. And anya meaning other things. So we have this concept of ananya bhakti, no desiring of other things, just like exclusive. As Prabhupada said, unalloyed. There's no mixing of anything else. So ananya bhakti. Shuddha bhakti, pure. So anya kami, you can say ananya kami, no desires for any other things. But anya kami means one who is desiring other things. There's other motivations in one's fueling, driving one's activities. Even if they may be deemed spiritual activities. If they are fueled by other things, and Prabhupada has identified those things as bhukti mukti, then still they will get Krishna's shelter, even if they didn't ask for it. If they engage in devotional service. If they happen to, along with their desires, or even in order to fulfill those desires, they engage in devotional service, they will eventually get that shelter, Krishna's feet, at some stage. Krishna kahe ama bhaje mage vishaya sukha amrita chari visamage ebadamorka. Krishna says, if one engages in my transcendental loving service, but at the same time wants the opulence of material enjoyment, he is very, very foolish. Indeed, he is just like a person who gives up ambrosia to drink poison. Ami vigya e murke vishaya kenidiba svacharanamrita diya vishaya bulaiba. Since I am very intelligent, why should I give this fool material prosperity? Instead, I shall induce him to take the nectar of the shelter of my lotus feet and make him forget illusory material enjoyment. Satyam dishatyartitam artitonrinam naiva tado yat punar artitayataha svayam vidhate bhajatam anichyatam ichya pidhanam nijyapada palavam. Whenever Krishna is requested to fulfill one's desire, he undoubtedly does so, but he does not award anything which, after being enjoyed, will cause someone to petition him again and again to fulfill other desires. When one has other desires but engages in the Lord's service, Krishna forcibly gives one shelter at his lotus feet, where one will forget all other desires. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.9.26. Kama lage Krishna bhajje phaya Krishna rase kama chari dasa haite haya abhilase. When someone engages in Lord Krishna's devotional service for the satisfaction of the senses and instead acquires a taste to serve Krishna, he gives up his material desires and willingly offers himself as an eternal servant of Krishna. Stana bilasi tapasi stitoham tvam praptavan deva munindra guhyam kacham vichinvan apidivyaratnam svamin kritatos vima smivaram nayache. When he was being benedicted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dhruva Maharaj said, "O my Lord, because I was seeking an opulent material position, I was performing severe types of penance and austerity. Now I have gotten you, who are very difficult for the great demigods, saintly persons, and kings to attain. I was searching after a piece of glass, but instead I have found a most valuable jewel. Therefore, I am so satisfied that I do not wish to ask any benediction from you." It's from the Hari Bhakti Shuddhadaya 728. Samsara pramiti kona bhagyike hatare nadira pravahe yena kashta lagetire. There are unlimited conditioned souls who are bereft of Lord Krishna's service. Not knowing how to cross the ocean of nations, they are scattered by waves, time and tide. However, some are fortunate to contact devotees, and by this contact they are delivered from the ocean of nations, just as a log floating down a river accidentally washes upon a bank. So the important point being made, the previous point being made is that connection with devotional service delivers Krishna to the seeker, to the devotee. One gets Krishna's lotus feet through devotional service, even if that devotional service is not in its beginning stages pure, even if it's mixed with other desires. If the motivation is impure, still, eventually, it will deliver results. And then this verse is poignant in regard to its identifying how that devotional service will come into one's life. If devotional service is the key, without it, all other processes are futile, then we need to know how it's going to come into our lives. And that's what this verse identifies. So it comes through contact with devotees, as it says. However, some are fortunate to contact devotees while being tossed around the chaotic situation, tossed around by the various forces of nature, material nature. Tossed around, as the example given here is like a log in the ocean, scattered, tossed here and there by waves and the tides. But contact with devotees lifts that log out of the ocean. So it's just as a log floating down a river accidentally washes up on the bank. So the effect of the contact with the real Vaishnava has the effect of rescuing someone who's in difficulty in the ocean. And that's when the devotional processes can begin. Of course, as was mentioned previously, that begins with some element or some performance of Sharanagati surrender. Various key ingredients in the practice of bhakti: contact with Vaishnavas and surrender. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashna. Inquiry, sevaya, service. Upadiksham kite jnana. Then comes knowledge and enlightenment. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we'll read, as is the custom, from Revealed Truth by Srila Bhaktisudanta Govinda Deva Goswami Maharaj. We'll read one little subchapter. From the section Pure Devotion and the chapter title, The Transcendental Vibration Form of the Lord. The essential ingredient. We can also understand the supreme position of Harinam Sankirtan through Srimad Bhagavatam. Vedavyas composed Srimad Bhagavatam after presenting the Vedas, Vedanta, Upanishads, Puranas, and so on. And in Srimad Bhagavatam he presented his ultimate conclusion. So many scriptures can be found within the Vedic school and culture. And within them, so many rishis, munis, and scholars present their research. Vedavyas collected and presented the gist of all of this in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lastly, he ended Srimad Bhagavatam with his final advice. Nama sankirtanam yasya sarva papa pranashanam pranamo dukkha samanastham namami harim param. Chant the Lord's holy name, trying to satisfy him and his associates. Try to avoid all connection with material existence as you practice Harinam Sankirtan. By doing so, you will be freed from all sin and you will reach the supreme goal of your spiritual life, service to the Lord Sri Krishna in the transcendental world. In this way, Vedavyas ended Srimad Bhagavatam with its final prescription and conclusion. Harinam Sankirtan is best for everyone. Whenever anyone participates in any religious function, it is necessary for them to understand why they are participating in it. Indian religion has its own customs. Muslim religion has its own customs. Other Western religions have their own customs. All religious people follow these customs and the rules and regulations they prescribe. And through that, everyone gets some auspicious connection in their lives. But what is the fundamental basis of that auspicious connection? It is always connection with the Lord through His holy name. Before any Vedic sacrifice is performed, a particular mantram is always recited to invoke auspiciousness. Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnur Mangalam Marusudanaha Mangalam Hrishikesho Yam Mangalaya Tano Harihi Vishnu Charana Matrena Krishnasya Smaranadarahe Sarva Vigyani Nasyanti Mangalam Syannasam Sayah. The Supreme Lord, that's from the Brihad Vishnu Purana. The Supreme Lord, who has many names like Vishnu, Madhusudan, Hrishikesh, and Hari, is the abode of all auspiciousness. Simply by remembering Him and chanting His names, all obstacles are destroyed and all auspiciousness manifests. There is no doubt about this. This Mangalacharanam, invocation of auspiciousness, reveals that everything will be auspicious if it is accompanied by chanting the Lord's holy name. Auspiciousness means connection with the Lord. And that connection, Krishna consciousness, is what produces all actual auspiciousness. This is the fundamental basis of all religion. It is first of all necessary for everyone to understand that all religious functions will be supremely auspicious when they are based on chanting the Lord's holy names. In that way, everyone can understand the fundamental basis and purpose of all religious activity, satisfying the Lord. The Hari Bhakti Vilas, the topmost guide for all Vaishnava religious functions, says that there is a mantram to invoke auspiciousness, not only for beginning, but also for ending all religious sacrifices. Yada Sangha Kriya Karma Janata Vapya Janata Purnam Bhavatu Tatsarvam Sri Harir Nama Kirtanat. This ending mantram says, whatever offense I may have made during the performance of this religious sacrifice, knowingly or unknowingly, willingly or unwillingly, will be removed and everything will be fulfilled by performing Harinam Sankirtan. We know there are many possible faults, both internal and external, in performing religious sacrifices. And we know it is not possible to perfectly perform any religious function. We know we must make some mistakes and get insufficient results according to our karma. But all deficiency and offense can be removed by Harinam Sankirtan. Through humble apology and prayer to the Lord in Nam Sankirtan, everything can be set right. Thus, Harinam Sankirtan is our only actual hope to satisfy the Lord. We must include it in everything we do. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Guru Dev Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Hari Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Gaura Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Sundar Radha Giridharu Ji ki jai, Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj ki jai, Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Guru Dev ki jai, Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Rupanuga Guru Varg ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Samaveda Vaishnava Mandala ki jai, Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Nitai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Go. Look like you should be asleep, did he? Catch up on sleep.